Hey there everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Tycho, artist and author, and we are finally diving back into finishing up this animated art piece that I made for the One Pale Reflection Kickstarter. If you're unfamiliar with One Pale Reflection, it is a young adult isekai fantasy book that I wrote. It was a #1 new release on Amazon, and I am very excited to share this artwork with you. I love drawing characters from my books, and it was an extra special treat even though it was really hard to animate Athos. I'm going to be showing off a little bit of the final process of painting the actual animation file, and also talking about a little bit of lore and Athos and what he does in the book. For those of you who have never read the book, Athos is the main antagonist of One Pale Reflection. He is an immortal wizard who has let his ego get absolutely out of control. He's utilized dark magic to become immortal, raise an undead army, and is planning on taking over an entire continent simply because he can. He definitely has some megalomania issues and takes out all of his problems on everyone around him. While I'm working on this portion of the artwork, I'll go ahead and throw some cool facts your way. It's some facts that may not even show up in the book, so this is exclusive information, and I hope that you all enjoy learning a little bit about the character that I created and how I ended up making him such a jerk. No one really knows what Athos' real name is. They are fairly certain that Athos is some kind of title that he picked up out of a book. Athos means god-like, and Athos definitely thinks that he's a god. That's for certain. While many might recognize him as Athos the Immortal or Athos the Key Thief, depending on what you call him, his origins trace back to the city of Sanstorstad, an Aostranian hub. Aostranon is a fantasy world that exists beyond mirrors in my book One Pale Reflection, and it's an entire continent made up of a variety of city-states, cultures, and people. Sanstorstad is on the western side of the mountains and is kind of a podunky, small, sort of in the middle of nowhere desert town. Athos wasn't always the fiery force that we know today. His childhood was turbulent, to say the least, being constantly bullied and then losing both parents in a horrific tragedy. It's no wonder he sought the refuge of magic, apprenticing under a mage from a very young age. Most mages don't start their training until they're in their early 20s, but Athos was already so good at magic that he was able to start at 16. Even after he amassed an insane amount of magical power, he never really left home. He stayed kind of in Sanstorstad's backyard and just went directly north, building his fortress of a castle in these mountain regions that are effectively completely impassable so that no one can bother him. His story isn't necessarily one that's super unique, and that was something that I wanted to emphasize in him because I see in him a lot of issues that a lot of young men in American society have. Ultimately, Athos was just a boy. He was plagued by tragedy, he transformed into a monster, and eventually would be both feared and revered. Some people just lose the goodness in themselves at a very young age, and it is almost impossible for them to get that back, and when they become adults, their primary goal becomes to control other people around them and to be feared and to be respected, and that desire has definitely eaten Athos alive. So, given his history and the trauma of his early years, how does Athos deal with fury or rage? Well, it's quite simple and very literal. He burns everything he can to the ground. That is his coping mechanism. Fire is his voice, his expression. And I think that's really what makes Athos' greatest weakness so apparent and evident. The only reason people can't stand up to him is because they are afraid of him. And as soon as people stop being afraid of him, he loses any power or any control that he has over them. That's where someone like Brendan, who is the main character of the book, is so powerful. It's because he's a young child. He hasn't really been exposed to some of the nastiest things that life has to offer, even though he's been through a lot. But ultimately, at the end of the day, he looks at Athos and he sees what Athos really is, and Athos is a scared little boy, just like Brendan is a scared little boy. As soon as that truth is reflected, then Athos' entire fearful identity falls apart. He no longer is this immortal key thief. He's someone running from a past that he can't ever really escape, and he's not really succeeding very well at it. Maybe there is an alternate universe somewhere where nothing bad ever happened to Athos as a kid, and he had the right people in his life at the right time to help him cope with things when they did come up, and he didn't have to resort to just being angry to deal with all of this stuff. But unfortunately, that's not how the story goes. One of the most difficult things that I had to work on while coming up with Athos and his story was trying to figure out if there was anything that made Athos as a person genuinely and honestly happy. And I think at the end of the day, the sad thing was that the answer was no. Even the most diabolical of villains, no matter what kind of story you're looking at, can sometimes find things that make them happy, things that bring them momentary joy, even if it's really superficial and it's really fleeting. But I don't think Athos feels any of that at all. Athos' number one goal is to be viewed as the most powerful mage that has ever existed, and he wants to make it everybody's problem. He wants to take over the entire world of Eostranen and have people bow at his feet in fear. But I don't think that when he reaches this goal at the end, if he were to completely take over the entire world, I don't think that at the end it would actually make him happy. And that's what's really sad about the entire thing, is that because he was so traumatized as a young person, he assumes that being powerful will make him happy because, obviously, when he was younger, not being powerful made him unhappy. So it should be simple, right? But what he doesn't recognize is that by meddling with the dark forces that he has been, and by giving himself up to these dark magics, he has completely hollowed himself out as a person, and nothing will probably bring him joy ever again. So is he a little tragic? Yes, definitely. Is he still terrifying? Absolutely. He's every little kid's worst nightmare. Brendan is the opposite of Athos in the sense that Brendan is a ball of unadulterated hope, and Athos is a pit of burnt, blackened rage. I was so glad that I got to showcase this for my Kickstarter as just a cool piece of artwork, as well as release it as an AR postcard reward. It was really fun for me to work on, and Athos is still one of my favorite characters that I've ever written and ever drawn. Thank you so much for being here with me on this deep dive into Athos' lore and art. If you enjoyed this, please like, share, and subscribe. Remember, art isn't just about the visuals, it's just as much about the stories that they tell. If you're curious about Athos and his adventures in One Pale Reflection, you can find the book on Amazon. It is a book that I poured my heart into, and I think that you'll love diving even deeper into its world, especially if you like isekai anime or young adult books in general. Also, for more behind-the-scenes content, updates, and special offers, do consider signing up for my newsletter. It is the best way to stay connected and be the first to know about upcoming projects and releases. As always, let your creativity shine and keep pushing artistic boundaries. I'll see you all next time.